Oh, by golly, back again. Here we are, and continuing on with our wonderful history in Alaska. There are so many things that have happened. It's hard to believe 400 years have gone by of recorded history, and yet most of us know very little, other than some of us old timers who've been around long enough to be punctuated by it, of the history of our great state. 21st of May, 1875, War Department General Orders Number 61 authorized the post commander in Sitka to perform the duties as an Indian agent for the Department of Interior. Now, mind you, we've only owned the state for 8 years, and the first general order coming out allowing anything of much interest to take place creates the duties as an Indian agent for the Department of Interior. 1900 at that time, the time was believed to be the earliest any ship had arrived at Nome. Every boat and canoe came out to greet the Alexander on its arrival in the Nome roadstead. 1921, Reverend Maynard Lundborg, missionary born in Lynch, Nebraska, marries Lorraine Lundstedt of Red Oak, Iowa. And the Evangelical Church of Yakutat, Marshall, and Unalakleet, he takes command of between 1946 and 66. And he's superintendent of the Covenant's Children Home in Unalakleet from 1947 to 1950. He is U.S. Commissioner of Wade Hampton Precinct, Nome District, 1953 to 54. Principal and teacher of the Covenant High School at Unalakleet from 1954 to 1966, and a delegate to the Constitutional Convention in 1955-1956, which many of you may or may not know was actually the formation of documents for Alaska to proceed to be the state, then to be the 49th state of the United States. Chaplain teacher at Minnehaha Academy in Minneapolis, Minnesota from 1966 until his death. 22nd of May, 1882, Herman Raymond Van Vanderleest, pharmacist born in Grand Rapids, Michigan, employee, Dr. Bart Prescription Dispensary in Grand Rapids in 1897. He passes the Michigan State Board of Pharmacy in 03, marries Alexandra Potner in 1914, becomes a drug clerk from 1904 to 1906, a pharmacist from 1906 to 1908 in Seattle, Washington, a pharmacist for Butler Moreau Drug Company, Nome, from 1908 to 1914, establishes a Juneau branch in 1914, eventually sole owner, retires in 1952, delegate again to the Constitutional Convention 1955 to 1956, dies in the Pioneer Home on November 5th in 1964. 1883, Frederick Schwatka and his 6 men depart Portland, Oregon on the steamer Victoria on a reconnaissance mission that was billed by some as a junket, fearing that it might be recalled, going over what would later be called the Dyea and Chilkoot Trail, reaching Crater Lake, building a raft, ending up in St. Michael's, all the way down the Yukon River. 1914, Alaska Engineering Commission offices are opened in Seattle, with Lieutenant Frederick Mears in charge of the Alaska Railroad construction project. 1935, 900 Alaska Juneau Gold Mine Company workers walk off the job to protest wages and working conditions. 1942, survey for a railroad from the lower 48 or the Canadian railway system starts with 9 teams, 1 serving by air, 8 on the ground, looking all the way for a possible rail route to the Bering Sea, deeming that Teller, Port Clarence, or in all probability is the best site for the end of the railway. Much of what is cited for the railway actually follows the same route chosen in 1906, a survey for a railroad, not to happen. And 23rd of May, 1792, Baranov, who was head of Russia's interests in the Alaska or the America-Russian Company, sets out for Prince William Sound to establish a permanent outpost as the base for further expansion of the Russia-American Company. In 1903, Ralph J. Rivers, Alaska's first congressman serving until 1966, is born in Seattle, Washington, and served as U.S. Attorney in Fairbanks 1935 to 33 to 45, elected Attorney General in 1945 to 49, Territorial Senate in 1955-56, then accepting election as Alaska's Tennessee Plan Congressman, dies in Chehalis, Washington in 1976. 1935, the second batch of settlers arrive at the Matanuska colony. Hey, your history trips along, glad to pass it on. Hopefully you'll be more knowledgeable as we learn more about the reality of who we are, whether you come from wherever you come from, you are an Alaskan.